Hello, this is Deidre McIntyre for Black Blockchain Summit. We are back again for another great panel. I'm really looking forward to this one, NFTs for Black creatives. And it is something that, really hit the mainstream in 2021 in terms of a lot of buzz around this area. So we're going to try to get into this panel discussion. We have with us today Candy Nicole and Maluku Sano. We're going to let Maluku take the first shot at introducing himself. It'll probably take about 3 minutes to give his background on his experience thus far. Maluku.
Hello. Thank you so much for the introduction. So my name is Maluku Sano. I'm an investment manager at Adaverse, which is a $100 million fund backed by the Cardano Foundation. And I'm also the co-founder of Cassava Network, which is a Web3 infrastructure company trying to connect African users from Web2 to Web3. We also have our own NFT platform, where we aim to work with African creators, musicians, and artists to build NFTs. And these aren't just free JPEGs, these are actual NFTs with actual utilities.
Wow. Okay, fantastic. And Candy Nicole.
Good morning.
Candy, good morning. That's right.
Good morning. Hi, my name is Candy Nicole. I'm a producer. I work with a lot of artists. I'm excited about what NFTs have the potential to do. And I'm looking forward to more practical steps that I can learn to take to share with my artists to help them promote their music, their films, all of the projects that are coming down the pipeline, but also to find a way to use this to monetize and bring in revenue for these projects.
Fantastic. And also Trek Smart, please take a few minutes, about a minute or so, to introduce yourself.
Hola, I am Trek with 2Ks, and in short, I've been in the crypto space for a number of years now. I am the pre-2017 class. I do a couple of things in the space, a lot of content contribution. So I'm on the Gentleman of Crypto channel where I do Weaker in Crypto. I'm on Crypto Blood TV's channel where I do My Two Satoshis. I'm also on another channel where I do voiceover for Simple Crypto. And I'm currently working on, with another partner, in webinars that deal in the metaverse space as far as the low code, no code ways of how you can use monetization strategies and methods in various metaverses, whether they are blockchain or non-blockchain related. And I'm also doing a podcast called The Wevolution, but that's another side project thing. That's me in short.
Okay, we're going to go a little bit out of order. Let's start with Candy, and then we'll go back to Trek, and then we'll go back to Maluku. The question I want to know is, everyone has that non-tech friend, and they get in your inbox because you've been posting for years about crypto and this, that, and they're like, I don't really know anything about technology. What's this NFT thing, and should I get in? Because we have all had that in our inboxes. How do you explain to a non-tech person what NFTs are, and should or should they not get in? I mean, what's that soft type of introduction that you give to the newbie? Let's start with Candy, and then go to Trek, and then Maluku.
That's an interesting question because it's actually the reason I'm here to not only discuss this topic, obviously, but I want to be able to bring those answers back to artists, because what I'm noticing is if you're an emerging artist, you're dealing with all of the same things that all other emerging artists are dealing with, meaning you have to build a following. You have to build an audience. You have to have a loyal fan base. And then no matter what the product is that you're selling, whether it's digital or something that's tangible, whether it's a t-shirt, a mug, it doesn't really matter what it is. It's a lot easier to sell those things when you already have people who have bought into your art and who are already supporting what it is that you do. And so if you're someone who's brand new on the scene and you haven't really built that yet, it's hard for me to to claim that an NFT could really help you because you're not even positioned yet to be able to get people in the market to want to buy anything you're selling, whether that's digital or any other type of asset. So I'd love to hear what anyone else on the panel has to say about that, because that's actually been a really big challenge for me.
Trent.
All right, so I'm gonna say it depends on what are you trying to do. If we're talking about the cash grab, all right, listen, there's a number of things that you can mess with. If you don't care for the tech, I'm a techie person. I see NFTs as a technology that works to transfer medium of content, right? But most people don't care about none of that stuff. So it's a thing of like, what are you trying to do? Are you just trying to do the cash grab of, I am not an artist, I just want to be able to get in, you know, do a couple of flips, or get in and being able to like get into one of these like exclusionary, you know, really high end, whatever NFT projects. Okay, well, you know, there's this marketplace. You got to on ramp this way to get, you know, the crypto in to do whatever, or the fiat in to get the crypto, whatever. Or if you already have the crypto, okay, well, here's a way you can convert over to do whatever you need to get that particular thing. If you're a creative person, then it gets into a different conversation, because now it gets into, are you techie or are you not techie? If you don't care for the tech, do you have someone in your circle who does have enough wherewithal to go through learning how to do it? And then you get into different subgroups, right? Because now it gets into, are you willing to go through the process of learning the coder level way, which is like deep dive, or are you looking at low code, no code solutions? Right? Then you get into, well, do you want to be in an open market or do you want to be in an exclusionary market? It depends on what the individual is trying to deal with. Are they being a consumer? Or are they being a creator? I don't know until a specific person asks me that, but that's the range of where it can go.
All right, Maluka.
I have to agree with what Tech has said, right? So sorry, Trek, right? Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
That's right.
All right, awesome. Yeah, so I have to agree largely with what he has said, right? So like it depends what you would want to use that like NFT for, right? But like it all goes down to like boiling what an NFT is and the possibility of like NFTs, right? So lots of people like when they think about like NFTs, like they just think of like these JPEGs of like monkeys or like of punks, right? But like it's more than like just that, right? So like fundamentally, right, like an NFT is a digital like representation of a digital or real world asset, right? It's a non-fungible token, right? So like there are many things a like NFT can like represent, right? So like NFTs can represent like music tickets, they can represent like ownerships in a house, they can represent like shares of like actual like, you know, like Apple stock, like for example, they can represent artwork, and they can like represent songs, right? So like it's really about like boiling down like what it is that you're trying to like achieve, right? So yeah, so and I feel like that the possibilities with like NFTs are like endless as well, right? So if so like as like Trek has mentioned, right, like if it's a cash grab, right, like there are plenty of like platforms that you can go to like flip these NFTs, right? But 99% of like NFTs aren't worth flipping, right? Like it's only these blue chip like NFTs that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, like that are worth getting into. But like even if you look at like at the big projects, right? For example, like you look at your CryptoPunks or you look at your like Bored Apes, these aren't just pretty JPEGs, right? They actually have real world like utilities, right? So for example, if you buy a Bored Ape, right, like you get access to like the Bored Ape membership, right? So then like you get access to like in-person like events, and it's like a community, right? And then if you look at who holds Bored Apes, right, so it's like Snoop Dogg has one, Eminem has one as well, so like you're in the same group chat as these people, right? So like you can connect with these people, right? And then you also own the IP of your Bored Ape, right? So like you can like rent it out, for example, right? Or like you can like design shirts, and then like you can get paid like for that, right? So like there are plenty of things that like you can do essentially with NFTs and the like possibility are like endless, like especially like when it comes to like Black creators as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things I always tell newbie people when they're contacting me through DM and they don't know squat about technology, I always give them analogies to what they already know. I said, you already know NFTs, you just don't think you know non-fungible tokens. And I give them an example of, when you buy a blender, when you buy a toaster, when you buy a bicycle, and you put these things in your house or in your possessions, what's that little card that you fill out? And why do you fill out that little card and send it back to the manufacturer? And it's, I'm getting the serial number and I'm writing it down, Kate, and sending it to the manufacturer so that I'm on file in case my house gets broken into or I'm riding my bike and some kids steal my bike. And then they catch the kids. And then how do I prove that that is my bike? Well, I registered it. And in this case, you're minting to the blockchain. Whether there's physical things like a blender or a toaster, you're registering instead of with a manufacturer, you're registering whatever blockchain that you choose to use to prove that that was yours in the beginning. And so now we have digital things. We have, audio files, and we have, you're creating an original cartoon graphic, et cetera. You can do the same thing that you once did with manufacturers, or just registering your car with a government agency to say that you were the title holder of that car. They kind of understand that already. They've been doing this non-fungible NFTs before there was a blockchain, but they're not realizing that now that you can do it, and it's not necessarily going to a company, it's going through a set of computers that validate that you were the owner, and then you can transfer that ownership onto other people. So something, Maluko, that you mentioned that kind of triggered another question to me. You said that about 90% of what's out there probably won't amount to anything. So how do, especially startup founders and creatives like yourselves, how do you tune into identifying what that blue chip element is? What is that thing? What is a checklist that you use to say, this might generate some buzz or value and it won't get lost in the clutter of the 90%?
I think I heard, let me get the names correct. Was it Mulu Kusano? Am I saying that correctly?
Muluku.
Yes, Muluku, correct. Muluku, that's correct.
Muluku.
Yeah.
Muluku. Earlier you mentioned Snoop Dogg, and that was an incredible addition to the point I was making, which is that if you're a Snoop Dogg, then being able to bring something to the market, whether it's a digital asset or anything Snoop Dogg does is cool because that's his brand. He's been building a brand of being that cool guy his entire career. And so because he's already established as an artist that people follow, millions of people all over the world already know who he is. Then when he says, I'm selling an NFT, now, oh my God, that's cool. And so people who follow him will follow whatever he's doing because of who he is. And so when it comes to an artist, I'm really more concerned about making sure that their brand is solid, that their audience is tuned in, and that their following is continually growing, that their community base is solid. Because that's going to be the pool of people that when they say, hey, I have this new thing and I'd like you to take a look at it, whether it's representing tickets or anything, it just makes it another thing that they're adding to their store, so to speak, rather than something that gets lost in that 90%. I don't even know if that makes sense, but I would love to pass.
Definitely, it definitely does make sense. I think that, kind of being devil's advocate, what about that yet to be discovered artist? I got a lot of talent. I don't have the crowd or whatever. Is there something immediately that they can do to start using NFTs maybe to build the following that they need to build? Does anyone want to take that?
I've seen artists try. And I think that speaks to how the 90% it's like a giant ocean that they're getting drowned in. Because I've seen artists launch NFTs, and these are artists that I have incredible amount of respect for. They're very, very good at what they do. But again, they're not Snoop Dogg. They don't have a career that has been in the quote mainstream spotlight for decades and decades. And so because they're emerging, and because, you know, maybe in the future they will have that following, but it's not there yet, that is what I'm seeing as far as that's how they're getting lost in that 90%. It's not being effective from what I'm seeing on the ground floor.
Okay, so Trek, and then we'll go to Maluka and back to Candy. What have you seen that has been inspiring, that you said, oh, when they came out with this NFT and how it was designed, that you were like, wow, you know, I wish I had thought of that, or this is gonna, you know, be something that's gonna be replicated into the space. What have you seen Black creatives do? Oh, no, it doesn't have to be just Black creatives, but anybody. What has been produced so far that you were like, wow, this was a well-planned and well-thought-out execution?
I actually witnessed, and I thought it was beautiful and brilliant because it came from the heart. I witnessed a poet here in LA. We're having a really amazing Renaissance movement here in Los Angeles. It's underground, it's very authentic, it's very real. And the artists who are leading this movement have gotten into the NFT space. And so one of them that I really love and value her voice, she's this prolific writer. She wrote a book of poetry and turned her book of poetry into an NFT. And then she was able to market that NFT to her following of community activists, artist activists, who were then able to purchase the NFT in order to support her community work, which is, you know, using poetry as a platform to express her angst, her frustration, her wishes, dreams, and hopes as an artist, the way that she sees the world. And it was very beautifully done. I can't speak to whether it was extremely financially successful. However, I did see people bringing in donations in cash just at the event that night. So I'm very, very intrigued by the possibility of, you know, putting even more marketing behind that and just seeing where it goes.
Very good. Trek?
All right, so I'm gonna jump on that Snoop point for a quick minute, and I'm gonna push forward, right? So here's why Snoop and his whole scenario annoys me. Everyone keeps pushing that Snoop is a genius for NFTs. Snoop is no, it's not Snoop. I recently just found out that it's his son that actually deals with all of his crypto NFT stuff. And when you look at how family dynasties usually work, it is usually the kids that scale up what the parents do. The Marleys is the same way. It was the daughter that scaled the business side of it internationally. Gary Vee is the same way for his pops winery, right? The wine store.
And so Spike Lee, I don't mean to interject, but Spike Lee said when he spoke on NFTs that when they asked him how he got involved, he was like, my kids.
You see what I'm saying? So like that's one thing. The other thing to realize is that the situation, there's a number of situations that are being perpetrated out in the NFT pop side of the marketplace that are licensing deals, but they're not being contextualized as licensing deals from entertainment personalities. So X amount of the people who just, oh yeah, this person's in, that person's famous. Yo, they're in a whole different tax bracket and they're in a whole different operational environment than the average retail person. So when someone tells me that, I'm just like, yeah, we're not looking at it. Me personally, we're not looking at this the same way, because those are the contexts of how I look at what is going on in the space. As far as a project that I would say that I kind of found interest in, oh God, I forgot what Alan's project is named. It's interesting to a degree, but then there's certain parts of it, you know, I'm not even gonna mess it up. The other project I thought of that I would say is interesting is Blockchain Soldiers, and that's by a homeboy out of New York named Wealth Gathers. He hosts Twitter Space and stuff. And I want to say something that goes into what Candy was talking about as far as like that whole building the community, building the brand. Here's the thing that will get most people in general when it comes to customer acquisition, whatever it is you're doing. You need at least 36 months, AKA 3 years of commitment of you pushing to get the word out about what you're doing. If you don't got the money or like the wherewithal to figure out the growth hacks and like deal with the face-to-face networking and constantly pushing your thing, when you get into this crypto space, like the internet brought it to where you can, quote, be global. Crypto and blockchain, for where we're moving in this internet connectivity thing, this isn't about you competing with the person who's in your zip code. This isn't about you competing or looking to build a community that's based on the people in your town or your city or your state. You're now competing with the kid in the Sichuan province because he has internet connection on his smartphone. You're also competing with the 12-year-old in Kenya. You're also competing with the 36-year-old in Bogota, Colombia right now. Whatever it is you're doing, if you are moving in this space in particular, your competition scale 10x. Here's the other funky part that most folks don't talk about. And this is something that I get into with what me and my homeboy 3D are doing when it comes to the whole metaverse thing. The amount of low code, no code options that are coming out now, like pre-COVID, and COVID did something really interesting for what it did for the protocol and the software production level in this thing. And I'm talking across the board for any sector, if it's software based. COVID did a rapid development of stuff where pre-COVID, if you were doing anything in metaverse, blockchain related, you were looking at a B2B level. You needed either the money and the technical know-how. COVID happened, and like if you had the wherewithal to, again, find the hacks, find the loopholes, be really like thorough and figuring out how to code, you would have got it figured out in probably 12 to 15 months. COVID came in, and then it all came down to, there are things I can do now on my phone to make an NFT, start up a blockchain, start a DAO, make up a website, right? All of that on the phone. I don't need let's say to find the dev person who's out in Silicon Valley or who's over in India. It's a very different ball game right now. And a lot of folks don't understand that, yeah, you see these quick turnovers, but the question is, like, if you really, really want to increase your odds, you got to make it past 36 months, AKA 3 years. Whether you're a project lead, a founder, a creator, or a builder, and I do distinguish between creators and builders, right? 3 years, whatever it is you're trying to do, blockchain related or not. That's at least how I'm looking at it, because that's what I've noticed since I've been pushing in this space. And that's just on content. I'm not even talking being a dev or like an artistic person.
Maluku, you mentioned in your earlier about the ability to rent NFTs, the ability of using them in forms of ticketing, and there's also fractional NFTs. What is something that you've seen that have struck you as very creative in this space that we should want to look out for in the future?
Yeah. So before I like answer that, like I just wanted to like speak on the like previous question, right? So like I think, right, like when it's to find like success like in this space, right, it's first of all about like defining like what success like means for you, right? Like as like Truck was saying, right, like is it in your neighborhood, is it in your city, or like is it like global, right? Like because like I've seen like people like who've made like good money like releasing like NFTs and then selling it like to the like community, right? So like it like all depends on like how much like you want to scale it, right? And I think, right, like to find success, it all depends on strategy, right? Like it's all about like breaking it down and finding the right strategy that works for you, right? And then like releasing something that people that like really like speaks to people, right? Or that like people, or like that you can really leverage, right? So like I think like that's what like separates it like 90% from like the 10% of like NFTs like that like actually make it, right? And to answer like your like question like into like what I've seen that's really like innovative in the NFT space is NFTs like as a means of financing, right? So there's this company called Atlas, right, which is essentially the like uninterrupted of Africa. They work with African athletes to like create like content, like just like LeBron James does like with his shop and stuff, right? So Atlas filmed a documentary on the Nigerian's national football team's quest to compete for the World Cup, right? And essentially what they're doing is they tokenize the like project and are actually selling NFTs in order to raise funds to produce the movie. Right. So like essentially like using like NFTs, right, like as a means of like financing, right? So then like if Candy or like Trek buy the like NFTs, then we have ownership in the movie too, right? And this gives us like long-term ownership, like in terms of like profit sharing and like so on and so forth, right? And like this is something like that I believe will like eventually be picked up by like a Netflix or like Amazon, right? So like this is something that's like super like interesting, right? That's super like innovative, right? So like these are things like that I want to see like more of, right? Like using like NFTs like as a means of like financing and like as essentially right like as a share of like what you are building, right? So like I think that's particularly interesting.
Yeah, I'm glad to have Maluku here because he's subtly bringing up a point that creatives in the United States are going to have more of an issue than he will have, which is this idea of being able to use NFTs to crowdfund. Unfortunately, we're a little bit under more pressure in the United States than people are globally. The technology does indeed make it possible that a small group can issue something that is valid. It has been recognized on the blockchain to actually fundraise, to actually develop a film. We have to be a little bit more creative, I think, on the United States because of our restrictions, but I think it still can be done because you could do something like pre-sales of the tickets to see that movie. Now you've actually bought something that's kind of like a pre-sale, but how they're using those funds maybe to make the movie, and then they'll be able to have, or maybe there's a VIP access instead of pre-sale. So let's just say you bought the NFT, and that means you can tune into behind the scenes or behind how it's made versus, direct crowdfunding, some type of VIP pass, which is essentially very key to what you mentioned before in terms of Bored Ape Yacht Club. It's really a VIP club, not just the uniqueness of the ape. They get access to discounts and interactions that other people who don't hold those NFTs don't actually get. So think about yourselves for a minute. Probably my last question because we're running short on time. But one of the questions is you yourself, if as in using your own creativity, what is something that you would produce for yourself? Not representing clients or anything like that. What is something in the NFT space that you think you might produce one day, if not today? Candy?
Oh, that's a good question. Because that's
it doesn't have to be immediate. It could be 10 years down the line. We want the heads up.
So, I've been just really deep in the community, building this like Renaissance movement with artists in LA. And it was actually born out of working with Amazon Studios, working with Netflix, and not getting anywhere because I am saying we should be utilizing crypto technology to fundraise for films and for artists. And Amazon and Netflix are very opposed to that idea because of the change it would bring and the shift of power that it creates. Now you're taking control and financing of a film out of the hands of those who think that they have the control to say yes or no, whether you're allowed to make a movie, and you're just doing it on your own, that's a threat to Netflix. That's a threat to Amazon. When I, come to them with these kind of ideas, I'm literally being told specifically by Amazon that they're not interested in, like I was working with Amazon Kids, where we're developing cartoons. And I thought it made perfect sense to be able to use the emerging technology as a means to fundraise for the project. And I was met with a lot of opposition. And so now I'm in a position where I can just do it myself. And then I would be the competitor to Amazon and to Netflix. And that makes me a threat. So it's a very interesting world, because I thought it made perfect sense, just like Mula just said, that companies that are already in that position should naturally transition into that space. But when it's about power, when it's about control, when it's about who has the right to tell the story according to the version that makes someone a villain or makes someone else the hero, and it changes the narrative of how people perceive themselves in the world. Now we're talking about changing how people see themselves, and that can be revolutionary. And not everybody's excited about revolution if you're already in a position of power and you see this as a threat. So yeah, I totally have been planning on using crypto and NFTs. I see it as almost like Chuck E. Cheese. So like when Netflix first came out, they disrupted the entire film industry because they changed the way that films are distributed. And by changing the distribution model, that changed the way that films get funded, that changed the way that films get greenlit. Netflix started out just distributing DVDs, which is a technology that people hardly even use anymore. And now they're in a space of actually being in a position to produce projects themselves. And they started out with original programming in a show called House of Cards. And now they've proliferated into a whole different space of having lots of original programming, or being able to buy completed projects from independent filmmakers and then putting that on their platform. But there's still a lot of shifting taking place. There's this tectonic shift taking place underneath the very floor of the whole entertainment industry. And so where I see an opportunity for someone like myself is to build like a Chuck E. Cheese type of experience, meaning you come into this space, and within this space, there's a currency that can be exchanged within this world for, tangible goods and products, but also for digital goods and products. And then when you leave that space, the currency probably doesn't have any real value, but within that space it does. Just like when you go to Chuck E. Cheese, I can use a Chuck E. Cheese token and have the time of my life all within the Chuck E. Cheese world, but I can't spend Chuck E. Cheese dollars, at Denny's or at McDonald's, right? So, but within that Chuck E. Cheese system, I got bank, right? I can go, play the skee ball. I can go, and then at the end, I get to take home a toy, right? So that's more so what I'm thinking, is building a Chuck E. Cheese world where the artists that I work with are the draw. They are why people are attracted into this space. But then once you're within my Chuck E. Cheese world, the value of the currency is based on what you're able to actually get for what you're spending. And then outside of that world, it doesn't really matter what the value is, because no currency has value if it can't be attached to something that people want to buy.
Great. We're running really short on time, so I want Maluko to take 1 minute, and then Trek to close in also 1 minute on that same question. You personally, what would you do in 60 seconds? Maluko.
Cheers. What would I do if I could build my own NFT? Wait, so like I'm a really, really big lover of art. Like I go to like Art Basel like every year, right? So like it would definitely be something art related, like especially something that's like connected to like African culture. as well, right? So yeah, so like probably just like or like art piece, right? Like with a group of like African artists, African American artists, and that has like utilities, right? That like helps finance their like careers or something like this, or like create like a creator DAO, like where we can like invest in them and then like help them grow, you know? So like yeah, so like these are the things that I would be involved in.
Fantastic. Trek,
All right. So
60
currently,
seconds.
yep. I already built with my cohort 3D a builder DAO on the Wax protocol, which works with inside the Uplift metaverse. If you are familiar with Minecraft, it is that ecosystem. So that's already in play right now. We're just being real I don't want to say squirrely, but like it's not a money grab thing for us. This is if you are interested in being a builder in the Minecraft ecosystem through Uplift. Technically, this concept works in any smart contract enabled blockchain. So that's the one thing. A thing down the future that I would think of as a project to work on is making a protocol that is hard coded for having royalties be a thing of NFTs. From what I understand about all of these smart contract features that are out here now that have NFT capability, royalties is not a hard-coded feature. It is a on and off function. So technically speaking, Rarible, Mintable, OpenSea, all of them, they don't have to actually turn on the feature that allows the front-end user on the GUI to be able to get royalties as a creator slash minter on their platform. There's actually a new platform right now that's called SudoSwap that's actually taking away the feature of paying out royalties, and they're doing a lower transaction fee, and they're eating in on OpenSea's marketplace. This is going to start happening more as platform as depending on how this model works out. I expect to see more platforms trying to do the same thing of not paying royalties. That's just my thought. But yeah, those are the
Yes,
things I would work on.
unfortunate.